Knowledge is power. Sickness and disease, it is the opposite of health and wellness, but it's a choice. Our Minister of Health has stated that every year Bahamians spend $800 million in health care. I want you to marinate on that. That's nearly $1 billion, 350,000 plus persons spend per annum. Something is wrong with that picture. We're going to begin at a global look at the food industry and what's really in your food. How many of you have heard of the term genetically modified foods? Genetically modified foods are foods that come from the seeds that have been created in laboratories and then planted by farmers. The genetically modified technology, it works because here's how it works. Scientists literally go into the gene of our food and add another gene. That gene comes from one of four sources: a bacterium, a virus, an animal, or another plant. If you understand what gene is all about, all of us have genes. Every living thing has genes. And the way God created us is that your identity is in your gene. The color of your skin, the color of your hair, the length of your hair, your eyes, everything, your nose, your fingers, your shape of your fingers. That's your personal ID. Notice when somebody dies and they're trying to identify somebody, what do? They go in and they get a DNA, which is a gene, and that will be able to identify who that person is. Now, that is what scientists have been doing to our foods. This technology began in 1970 with a company called Monsanto. Here's some of the reasons why genetically modified technology first came into existence. They were using it as a time-saving method for producing larger, higher quality crops. And I put a question, higher quality crops, with less effort and expertise. In essence, what they were saying, they wanted to feed the world. 2, they wanted to keep up with the supply of feeding the world. The second reason why GMOs came into existence was to kill the pests or bugs that eat crops. GMO plants can cause the stomach of the bug. What happens is when bugs eat the plants that are genetically modified, immediately their gut bursts open and they die. Now, one of the things that has been a big thing in Europe is that genetically modified foods has mostly been banned in about 8 of them now accept genetically modified foods, but they must be labeled. Doctors in Europe have been taking people off genetically modified foods, but here in countries like ours, third world countries, it's flooding our food stores, and we don't know. And one of the things I am passionate about is that my people perish for lack of knowledge. And I tell people often, gone are the days when we can depend on the people who are producing our foods, where their interest is also our health. Unfortunately, it's about the mighty dollar. So you and me as consumers now have to be that much more vigilant about going into the food store and about what we are putting into our bodies. Unfortunately, in the third world countries, there's a lot of stuff coming in here that's garbage. Genetically modified foods. 90% of the corn, cotton, sugar beets being produced in the United States are genetically modified. Genetically modified sugar beets make up half of the USA's sugar production and 95% of the sugar's beet market industry. I want to stick a pin right there. Most all of our foods have sugar. And what we're not realizing is that most of the sugar is from the beets. Unless on the label it says sugar cane, it comes from sugar beets. But I want you to hear this. 90% of the sugar, the corn, the cotton that comes from the United States are genetically modified. And for us women, let me tell you how cotton is so important to us. We're wearing these pads. They literally are filled with a lot of chemicals, the genetically modified chemicals. We're wearing Band-Aids that we wear. We cover our cuts and whatnot with genetically modified. And if you understand, the skin is the largest organ, so that it's very porous. When we put these oils, when we put these creams, these chemicals on our skin, it goes into our bloodstream. Now, even now, the papayas that come from Hawaii are now genetically modified. Here's some of the genetically modified foods you're eating. How many of you love your yellow grits in the morning? Okay, how many of you love your yellow grits? Okay, if you're eating yellow grits that is not from our family islands or that does not say organic, you're eating genetically modified grits. These breakfast cereals, corn flakes, sugar corn pops, corn chips, all of these corn products, if it does not say organic, it's genetically modified. The soy in the U.S. has been modified to resist when sprayed with something called Roundup herbicide, which is made by Monsanto. And what happens is it makes weeding easy for farmers because the weeds die right away with this chemical Roundup that's sprayed on them. But the plants, they're calling them now super. And here's what's happening. These foods that we're eating, they're now becoming resistant to a lot of things. And now they're calling them super foods, super plants, because they're developing resistance to a number of things that they're spraying now, and they're noticing there's a lot of change. And I've been following the science behind it. Unfortunately, this spray gets into our food. Another set of foods that's genetically modified, the zucchini and the squash, the alfalfa that was approved in 2011. And then for those of you who like this canola oil, run, 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 run. We are feeding our children this stuff. We're eating this stuff, and we're trying to figure out why we are so sick. We're making a decision of what we're putting in these good bodies that are marvelously created. But it's a choice. You choose.